Dina Does. I'm Dina, and I know a little bit about a lot, but I want to know more. So join me on this path to self-discovery. This week on Dina Does, we are here talking about hormones with the master of all hormones, Dr. Prudence Hall from the Hall Center in Santa Monica, California. Welcome, Dr. Hall.
Thank you, Dina. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy to see you again. You were my doctor for many years when I lived in Malibu, and it was a really difficult time in my life. I was going through a whole lot of stress, and you really helped me understand how stress affects my body and my hormones and everything else. It's not just what goes around on you, what you put in your body. It's a combination of everything. So I'm here in Orange County now. I wish I was still able to come see you, and I might make the trip once in a while because you're that good. But I wanted to have you on the podcast to really hone in today on hormones and how it affects, especially us women at all ages. My daughter is 26, and we were just joking about her because I was like, Lex, you're doing so much this week. I'm so proud of you. You're business, you're active. And she was like, yeah, that's because I'm ovulating. I get this burst of energy. And she's like, in the other 3 weeks, she was like, I don't feel up to it. So she's actually going to see a hormone specialist too. So this is not just for women of my age or as we get older and perimenopause and menopause. This is for a conversation for everyone to have.
Dina, that could not be better said, because I personally take care of a lot of teenagers who are under enormous stress, which affects our hormones. So we can get into that in a minute. And certainly at any age. Most women, for example, don't know that perimenopause, which is the 5-7 years sort of through that area before menopause, starts in our mid to late 30s. So hormone balance is critically important to well-being and to how we age. It's our body's software. We don't want to go to our computer and try to, get information back when the software is corrupted. So we want to keep healthy software. Any age.
Well, absolutely. What I love about your center is you supply all the resources from your knowledge onto the supplements that you carry and the books, of course, that you write. So there's a really, broad stroke of hormones that we need to understand and how it affects each part of our body. And again, like we said, how much stress affects it. I remember, I think I was like, maybe 40, I'm 50 now. So I was maybe 44, 45. And I remember you taking my HCG levels and you were like, wow, these are really good for your age, and be careful because your follicles are rare to go and you could get pregnant. And I was like, 40, I'm in my 40s. And sure enough, not only did I get pregnant once, but I got pregnant twice. Where I wasn't able to hold on to them, unfortunately. But it's a misconception also about when you start entering perimenopause and menopause about, pregnancy. You can get pregnant as long as you're getting your period, you could still get pregnant.
What you said about stress is very, very important. So when I graduated USC with my gynecology residency, I was not aware of the critical importance of hormones. It fell into the field of endocrinology that other doctors handled, and certainly gynecologists didn't do that. But I do think that that the amount of balance that we have in our hormone, affects us for our entire life. So let's just talk about stress for a minute. So we have these little hormones called adrenal stress glands that sit back on the kidney. So they're right kind of towards our back there. And what happens is when stress starts hitting the body, these adrenal glands pour out hormones. And the hormones would be testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone, cortisol. And those hormones help to maintain our blood pressure. They beat our heart. They maintain clarity in the face of emergency, because stress is like an emergency situation for people. It's maybe we're being attacked, or maybe we have to run away. Blood sugar pours into the body to help us to really use our muscles to run and get away from danger. But what happens with chronic stress is that the levels start to decrease, and they decrease and they decrease, because those little glands just can't keep on making that amount of hormones. It's like you're wringing out a rag and suddenly there's no more water to wring out from the rag. So these adrenals are greatly depleted depending on both the stress from the outside and also the stress from the inside. So one of the biggest stressors we face as women is imbalanced ovarian hormones. So when we start to drop our estrogen levels in our late 30s or early 40s, that puts a huge stress on the body. And you know the symptoms of stress, right, Dina? I mean,
I know them all too well.
yeah. Exhaustion, hair falling out, a lack of being able to build muscles, depression.
Dull skin.
Yeah, and your skin is just gorgeous. You are so beautiful. It's such a joy to see you looking beautiful at 50. And I know you'll be beautiful at 70 and beautiful at 80. And you know, beautiful is healthy. In my view, beautiful is healthy. Not only the
Well, it's definitely, we've discussed this on other podcasts about self-confidence, is when you're feeling good inside spiritually and everything, you have a different glow about you too. So that definitely plays into it. But hormones are such a huge part. And I want to know a little bit more. And my mom, she had 11 children and was under tremendous amount of stress for her entire life, married to my dad with all these kids. But her skin and everything remains beautiful. And that's hereditary, where I have good skin thanks to the way I take care of myself, but a lot of it is hereditary. Are hormone imbalances hereditary? Is that something that you're kind of given a blueprint and it's your job to balance it all out? Or is it something that every individual is different?
So that's a very good question, because what we've found is that 90% of diseases are not hereditary. So that means that 10% of diseases are actually hereditary. Now, there is quite a strong hereditary component to insulin and sugar. That's diabetes. Those are the diabetes hormones that are made in the pancreas, right here in the body, that big pancreatic gland. So that there's quite a strong genetic proponent to our insulin and our glucose. So a lot of women will say, well, I never eat sugar ever. And I'm very careful with my refined carbohydrates like pasta, white rice, crackers, bread, things like that. But their sugar is very high. And then they'll say, yeah, my mother, my father, my aunts all have diabetes. So we aren't passed out exactly the same hormones. Now, women are always asking me, is my menopause going to be the same as my mother's? Generally not, Dina. Generally not. That's more due to stress and lifestyle. Do you know when your mom's menopause was? Because
she had me at 36. Yeah. And I recall being about 10 or 12 when she was hitting the height of it. Yeah. So she went in a little early, but again, 11 children depletes you of a lot of. And a lot.
Yeah. And menopause now is younger. When I started this whole thing 3.5 decades ago, menopause could have been 50, 51, 52. Now it's 44 to 48 or 49.
Ooh. So what do you think that's due to? The processed foods and antibiotics in our meats and stuff, or is it just
absolutely
evolution?
Stress. I think, stress is so important in terms of it's one of the causes of hormone decline in all of us. Toxicity, increased sugar. We have a lot, we have 100 times more stress than our grandparents did. And everything now has sugar in it. Most processed foods have sugar. So sugar, stress, toxicity, lack of sleep. You want to sleep a good 8-9 hours, because that's when the body cleanses itself, goes into the clean cycle, like on your washing machine or something, it's cleaning your body because you're asleep and, we're not eating or interfering with it. So we're sleeping less,
Yeah, I would think it was the opposite, because years ago you had to really, we're starting from the very beginning, running from the tigers, the lions, like you said, the flight or fight that we needed. And now you would think life would get easier, but it's, of course, not only, the stresses of life, but the toxins around us and in the air, and everything plays a huge role as well. It's kind of like, where do you begin when you want to start really paying attention to your hormones and the levels? What is a good place to begin?
I would love every woman, or and men too, to check their hormones around their mid-20s. That's an optimal,
Wow.
ideal time. And checking them around that time will give us a baseline. Now, I usually don't have the luxury of working with people who have had their hormones checked at that age. And then the next best time is the next time you get your blood drawn, basically. And just you could ask your doctor, hey, could we add, for a man, could we add a testosterone level on? And for a woman, we would say, could you add an estrogen and this hormone called an FSH? It's a follicle stimulating hormone. It's a brain hormone. And, the brain regulates all of our hormones and a lot of our behavior, our thirst, our sleep, our hunger, and our desire for sugar, the kinds of foods we have, an interest in eating. A lot of it is the brain calling out and trying to regulate what we do and what the cells do. So, anytime you get your blood drawn, you can ask for the FSH for women and an estradiol and a testosterone for men. And then you hang on to that level because that would be a level that we would want to work with just as a baseline. Like I said, most of the time I don't have that. So we do it. We can do it without any prior lab work. I follow that FSH and I follow symptoms and, come back to a youthful level. We want to, when I balance hormones, I balance all the hormones that we have back to youthful levels. I don't want to balance you to a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old. Like my hormones are balanced to a 35-year-old. So,
And I see it. You are goals in every way for sure. I look to you as like how I want to age. So you're in your mid-20s. For those, we do have a lot of listeners, who are younger in their 20s and 30s. So when my daughter actually told me she was getting her hormones checked, and it was her. I mean, I think she's honest about this on her Instagram too, but it was her therapist who said, I think you need to get your hormones because I see, your moods are fluctuating through the month. And I know for me, I'm a different person those 3 or 4 days before my period, different person. Like when it's over, I'm like, wow, what was that? But I've always been that way. And I wish I knew in my 20s to get it checked because you don't think hormones are an issue when you're that young. You think you're invincible and everything's fine. So I love that you're putting it out there that now is the time to start, as early as you can in your 20s to just get that baseline so you have something to follow. But also, if your hormones at that age do come back not balanced, is it supplements that we're doing to balance them out? What is your protocol?
So this is very critical to discuss really the younger woman, because I take care of, I measured literally, Dina, thousands of women in their 20s and very early 30s, their teens, to see what those youthful hormones look like. And what I've found is that, first of all, stress will lower them. For example, I measured a whole bunch of college students at UC Berkeley, and though they were, especially I was looking at men at that time, and their testosterone levels before finals were much, much lower than their testosterones at other times. And so it's the stress of the finals decreased their testosterone. Stress decreases women's hormones too. But the second thing that decreases hormones in young women is the birth control pill. Mm-hmm. Did you want to talk a little bit about the birth control pill and what that does to hormones? Or
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to just start by saying I'm very in favor of us taking our fertility back into our hands, into women's hands, so we can control it, and to have a child or not to have a child. More and more people are sort of saying, well, I'm not sure I want to have a child. And that's a very valid opinion to have, and you don't want to have a child if you don't see yourself as a mother, because it's a big job, right, Dina?
It sure is. Never ending.
So it was really a miracle when the birth control pill was created. It was amazing. And because women could decide more or less when they wanted to have a child. And I was trained in a residency program at USC that was very pro birth control pill. And I put, I'm sure, a number of thousands of women on the birth control pill. But when I started seeing my younger patients in my private practice, they told me things like, I'm gaining weight and I'm tired and I'm depressed, Prudence, and I used to be so smart and now I have ADHD and I can't remember things. And, I thought, okay, well, they're tired. They're tired. And then I realized and I started checking the hormones of these young women, 20, 18, 25, sort of in that age category, 30. And I realized that when they were on the birth control pill, their hormones looked like they were menopausal.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it was shocking to me to see that this kind of miraculous birth control was really hurting women's hormones. So I would look at their estradiol levels. A normal estradiol could be 175 for women, depending where in the cycle, maybe 200 at ovulation, 300 to 500. That's why your daughter feels great, middle of the cycle. She's ovulating, she has high levels of hormones. And even if you're on the pill, you can have higher levels of hormones mid-cycle. But these young women had estradiol levels of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they were telling me the same symptoms that menopausal women have. I'm tired, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have ADHD, I'm gaining weight. Oh, no sex drive. What do women in menopause tell me? And complain to each other about or feel bad to each other about is that it's gone. This sexy, beautiful, I call it, kind of the magic of women. It kind of disappears. And the birth control pill lowers our estrogen, lowers our testosterone. And also I'm seeing adrenal imbalances on the birth control pill. So over the years, I kind of say, oh, please don't take the pill. There are other methods.
What do you suggest other than the pill?
Well, there's an IUD.
And so hormone that doesn't affect your hormones as much, having that in you?
As long as it's the Paragard, it doesn't. The Paragard is a copper IUD. There's the Mirena out, and then there's the baby Mirena, which is called the Skylus. So there's some others that do affect. Now, I haven't measured thousands of women on the Mirena, but hundreds and hundreds. And I see that the estrogen levels are a little bit depleted, but nothing like with the birth control pill. So, that's one method. Another method, of course, is condoms. And then there's the morning after. If a condom breaks, you have 3 days to take the morning after pill. There's also something called the Daisy, which is a method that helps you keep track of your body temperature. And my daughter has used that for many years. And, that's excellent, pretty easy to do. And it kind of, when you ovulate, your temperature goes up. So it keeps track of your body temperature first thing in the morning and then tells you you're getting ready to ovulate. So either make love now or don't, if you want to avoid it. So that's a natural method.
It's so funny because I went on birth control for a very short time after I had Lexi, just because we weren't ready to have another baby. And I had a horrific reaction to it, like as if I was pregnant. I was vomiting every day. So it was a very short time. I went off of it. And the only other time that I went on it, I think it was right when I was seeing you about that time, right before, maybe it was before I moved to California. I had an ovarian cyst and they gave me birth control to shrink it. So it wasn't you. So it had to be before. And I think that's what kind of sent me into a really imbalanced hormone situation, is going on that to shrink it and then not feeling well and coming off of it. So I regret ever using that method.
Well, not all women feel this way, and not all women's levels will be depleted and look menopausal when I check their levels on the birth control pill. So I don't want to say that there's one size that fits everyone, but what you just said is really typical of the women that I see. So people that come to me are having problems and they want me to help them, investigate and find out what it is. So, and I've measured levels now for 25 years of these young women, and the women who feel terrible on it, like you did, really have very imbalanced hormones. So yeah, I'm glad you're not using it as birth control, or that you don't need to.
No. And now we're obviously just being very careful because I'm still 50 getting my period. So things can always happen.
Gorgeous and beautiful. And it's wonderful that your hormones are still, that's a sign of health to have hormones last into your 50s. I mean, it's really amazing these days. So I'm glad to hear that.
Well, I noticed a difference when I started being very careful what I eat, because I know hormone disruptors come in all shapes and sizes, what we put on our skin, the environment around us. But for me, sugar is a huge thing for me. I love sugar. I don't have any other vices. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't drink caffeine, coffee, but I love sugar. But I noticed when I cut down the sugar, everything balances out. The brain fog is gone. My periods are more regular. So it's unbelievable, these little micro changes that you can make in what you eat that can make the huge difference. But if we wanted to start on our journey to taking care of our hormones, what are like the top 3 supplements after you get your blood drawn? Obviously there are specifics based on what hormones are out of whack. But if you just want to take like a hormone journey, is it taking care of your thyroid first? Is there a specific hormone that you recommend? I mean, a specific supplement that you recommend to try and help balance it out if you don't have, the wherewithal to go and get all your blood work done and everything immediately?
So I would say that the week before the period, what happens the week before the period or 3 or 4 days before the period is estrogen levels plummet. So one of the great supplements to take during that time is something called pregnancy prep. Now, this is by a company called Vitanica, and I think it's a great supplement for PMS. And
even for a 50-year-old, even though I'm not prepping to get pregnant.
Yeah. If you take it for a short period of time, it's not going to really make you ovulate, but it does help too with PMS symptoms. And also the B vitamins help a lot with all the mood dysphorias and things as you go into early menopause. So the B vitamins are great. Another thing that's really good and important, it's not really a supplement, but it's important to eat our fat. So when I talk to young women, I always want to say, look, eat a full component of your diet. So this is not the time to eat, to go on the keto diet, which is primarily fat, but it is a time to have enough omega-3 in your diet. So some fish and some, other types of oils, because the time of a low oil diet is really past. We make all of our hormones from our cholesterol, Dina. And so having very, very low cholesterol, very suppressed, for example, by Lipitor or some of these medications, it's like it's not healthy for us to have such low HDLs and LDLs, lipids, because we're making our we're making our hormones from them. Now, for the thyroid, I love 3 or 4 Brazil nuts a day. Eating some seaweed or some iodine. Sometimes women can take a little iodine, some little drops of iodine, and that really helps the thyroid function well. And
yeah, because the thyroid, it wreaks havoc if your thyroid is off, just like the hormones. Does it start with the imbalance of hormones and then go to your thyroid? What came first, the chicken or the egg in that? Because I know they're very intermeshed.
You're right. So I would say that in a menopausal woman, generally what happens is that she loses her ovarian hormones and then the thyroid becomes imbalanced. So it's kind of like the adrenals next become imbalanced and then kind of the thyroid becomes imbalanced. So it's sort of like knocking down little card bridges. In a postpartum woman, it's very common that her thyroid doesn't work well after the birth of her baby. And that's a lot of times women will say, well, Prudence, the last time I actually felt well was before I delivered my 3rd child or my 2nd child. And that is the key, that their thyroid has been diminished by the pregnancy, because the baby takes our iodine to make their little thyroid gland function and to begin making their thyroid. So taking Brazil nuts has selenium in it. 3 or 4 Brazil nuts has about 200 micrograms of selenium, which is just it's an amino acid. And then also you can have, some iodine, because in order to make 1 thyroid hormone, you need 4 molecules of iodine. And,
wow.
Yeah, so that really can help with thyroid function. And, a little extra fat in your diet is great to make your own hormones. There are all kinds of things that people are talking about over the years with soy. And can soy help create better hormonal balance? And soy is not a particularly good product for the brain, for the female brain, but sometimes soy can help in the perimenopausal time.
Well, see, I always looked at soy as the enemy for some reason. I
Well,
try to avoid it.
allergen. You're right, Dina. It's a big allergen. There can be more refined soy that works. So I'm not a big soy fan. I want you to know that. But
Okay.
some people, very reputable people, like Christian Northrup, I love her very much. She's very knowledgeable. She's one of the,
I love her too. She's great.
yeah. So she recommends soy. I don't think right across the line, but in perimenopause, sometimes that can help. Probably in perimenopause, taking the oils, GLA, that's an important oil. It's evening oil of primrose and the
Mhm.
omega-3 oils. I think those are really, really good supplements for perimenopause, in your late 30s, early 40s. That
I
would be.
love that we're addressing all ages because everyone, like we said, needs to have this conversation because it could affect so much from your mental health to your gut health and everything else. I want to spend a few minutes on hormone replacement because I am the only one of my girlfriends in my age group who are not using it right now. And they're all like, you're nuts. If you want to look amazing, this is what you have to do. I just was, I had tried it one time, I think before I should have, because I lived back in New Jersey and a company had offered me an exchange for promotion. And I was in my 30s and I was rubbing the testosterone on the back of my legs and I was angry. I was in like a bad mood and I'm like, it's got to be this. So I was worried that it was going to deplete what I was naturally making. And I started too young. So tell me what the right age is to really explore that option.
So this is really getting into the art of medicine here, or the art of hormone replacement. So unless you're on the birth control pill and you're very, very stressed, testosterone levels generally don't fall. Stress will lower it, the birth control pill will lower it, and then as you really get into menopause, testosterone levels will start to fall off more. So if I were to give you a supplement, I wouldn't have chosen testosterone, Dina. I would have been much more concerned about your adrenal glands, for example. So, there are a couple of rules. You get the symptoms, and then you get the blood work, and then you can kind of correlate what the blood work goes with what symptoms. So, what symptoms did you have when they gave you testosterone? Did you have a lower sex drive? Were you more tired? What symptoms?
Sex drive has never been an issue, is more like fatigue. At the time I was running a business and filming and I had my foundation. I was doing a lot at one time. So I was tired. I felt overworked and run down and I was getting a lot of kidney issues. And I was going through a stressful time in my marriage. So it was mostly fatigue and just, I guess I'm always worried about anti-aging. That probably was part of it. Like I just want to.
Yeah, testosterone is an important hormone for women. I mean, for men, that's a hormone that helps to prevent prostate cancer. It helps to lower their lousy LDL cholesterol. Dale Bredesen, who's a prince in terms of researcher, 40 years of research. He was the head of the UCLA clinics for dementia. He said testosterone is critical for men to help prevent Parkinson's and dementia. So look, testosterone is an important hormone for women and men. But guess what I'm thinking about for you? It was your adrenals. It was your adrenals that were becoming depleted, causing fatigue. So the adrenals would be DHEA, pregnenolone, cortisol. And, testosterone is one of the adrenal hormones, but really it was DHEA and pregnenolone that you probably needed. And so in that case, what happens when your adrenals are lower? Those are the little glands at your back. You're more tired. You can feel more irritable. You can gain weight. Anxiety and nervousness and kind of sometimes even panic attacks happen. We gain weight. So that's what happens when the adrenal glands start to fall. Some women, I take care of a lot of women who come to me initially and they say, Prudence, I can't get out of bed. I mean, I'm so exhausted. I know their adrenal glands are low. I mean,
I mean, if I'm thinking about it, it was more like I didn't really have a lot of symptoms. If I had to pick something, would have been that. It was more like, hey, will you do this exchange? And I knew it can help people. So I was like, sure. I wound up giving the package to my sister, who was 15 years older than me, and say, maybe this is, we'll promote it through you, because right now, I don't think I need it. But is there a certain age? Like I said, like my friends 45 and up are all on hormone replacement right now.
So that's wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that, because hormones are your lifeline. They really maintain your health. They keep your cholesterol lower. They decrease heart disease, which is the #1 cause of death in women. They help to prevent dementia. Again, this is Dale Bredesen's work and a lot of other people. Estradiol is critical for the female smart brain. We want to prevent decline in chronic conditions. So, and at 45, a lot of women are menopausal. And certainly, I would say every woman, 99% of women by 45 are really in a state where their ovarian hormones are not at optimal levels. Because really around, sort of in our late 30s, early 40s, the estrogen levels that our ovaries makes really is quite low. And I hear women say that their menses are irregular at that time. They have bad PMS, they feel exhausted and irritable, and they're losing their sex drive. So symptoms are a reason to have your hormones looked at and managed by all means.
So it's more of a symptom based than an age that you hit that you should start exploring this.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly the way to put it. Because now, I just want to say, as a corollary to that, some women come in and say, oh, Prudence, I just feel great. And it's like, that's wonderful. You don't have fatigue or low sex drive. You aren't gaining weight. No. I checked their hormones, and I'm looking at this devastating set of hormones. So it's, where really they have no estrogen, they have no testosterone, their adrenals are extremely depleted, their thyroid is off. And it's just like, wow, don't women have an amazing ability to keep going, even though we don't have any gas in the car? So I wouldn't say that, every woman should, listen, if I had my dream here in the world, I would say every woman by the time she's 45 should have her hormones checked. and we'll pick up a lot of menopause, we'll pick up a lot of adrenal deficiency, a lot of thyroid that's not really balanced. And I would say that probably 50% of the women that I see are sort of around that age of 45, and they say, look, something is wrong. And sometimes they can't, really vocalize what's wrong. It's like, are you tired? Well, I'm busy, so I'm still doing what I'm doing. Well, are you depressed? No, not depressed. Do you have less joy? Oh yeah, I have less joy. So it's kind of subtle. It can be very subtle.
It's interesting because the more I dive into spirituality and learning more from all different aspects, the phases of the woman that we all go through, from the maiden to the crone, your health is really hand in hand with that, because as we enter our 40s, we're really starting to ask ourselves questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I think that's why a lot of women don't feel good, because these spiritual aspects of questioning who they are, and their kids are going off to school and now they have to face who they are because they've been a mother for the past 45 years or whatever. So I think it kind of all goes hand in hand, and they all do support each other. But it's very interesting how once they start to get on the path of correlating mind, body, and spirit, everything really starts to make sense. I just got a whole panel. My husband and I are not only on a spiritual journey, but we're on a health journey as well. So we got our panels done from everything from heavy metals to everything else. And I was surprised to get my results back that my hormones are amazing, other than I had high testosterone at 50. I was like,
why you responded so, with irritability and everything with your hormones at 40 or whenever that was checked. Dina, you're really speaking my language when you say, on a spiritual level, on a hormone level, because I like to speak and say, well, we have a biological level, a biological age. That would be how well our body is doing regardless of our age. So some 20-year-olds are very old biologically. They have high cholesterol, they have high sugar, they're exhausted. And then we have a chronological age. That's how old we actually are in terms of times around the sun. Then we have an emotional age, and we want to be emotionally old, mature, wise,
Wise.
magnanimous. We want to have an old age. And then we have a spiritual age. And that's something that we work on, and that's something that we explore and we learn. What you were saying about spirituality and aging is very important, because I view people on 4 different levels, 4 different planes. And when I talk to my clients, I talk, well, you have a chronological age. That's how old you are in terms of going around the sun, your actual chronological age. You have a biological age. You have a lot of input into how fast you're going to age and how old you're going to age. And then we have an emotional age. That takes a lot of work. And, an emotional age can either be hurt by trauma or helped by trauma and understanding the trauma we've been in. And certainly with the work we're doing. And then we have a spiritual age. And I was saying we want to be kind of, I always say we want to be sort of old emotionally, wise and old. And we want to be old and wise in terms of being blessed and being imbued with spirituality. But you want to be young biologically. In chronological age, we have nothing to say about. But Dina, I was just talking to a patient before this broadcast, and she is saying, she's 62 years old. She said, well, I went to a very sophisticated way of analyzing your biological age, and they said I'm 36. And I looked at her hormones and I said, I think you're right. I said, look at you. You have strong bones. You have great, your estrogen level is like a 30-year-old. So hormones and lifestyle, sleep and diet, the thoughts that we have, living the life purpose that we were sent here to live, all of these impact these various types of ways of looking at aging.
Yes, and healing trauma from recent to generational as well I'm seeing a big difference in my overall health doing that and facing that and working through it. It's really incredible how you can't just focus on one. You have to do all of it together.
Yeah. And the spiritual component of who am I? Who am I really? For example, when I started doing this work, probably now 25 years ago or longer ago, I realized that who I am is actually an embodiment of love. And it's like, well, that makes sense. That makes sense, because when I'm talking with my clients, so much of what I want to transmit is sort of a loving presence for them to help step into. And but other people say, my life purpose is to create beautiful art, or I'm here to resolve, this complex technological mess that we're in, or for politics, for world peace. God, I love it, Dina. What's your life purpose? What is driving you?
I mean, right now, this is why I'm doing this podcast, is just I've been lucky enough to find so many people that have helped me along my spiritual journey and my healing journey. I have a lot of PTSD and everything, and I just want to share that. And I think I kind of look at myself as, this driver of this bus with all these talented, beautiful people like yourself, just sharing knowledge and wisdom. And I can be a conduit for that through this platform and several others that I plan on going into.
Oh, that's beautiful. When I work with people and they go from feeling depressed and sad and burdened by life and angry and sleepless, and then they go to life, I see more light coming through them. I see more light, and it's just like, wow, all of this light is going into the world to enlighten, to enliven other people's lives. So you are a conduit, Dina, a beautiful conduit. And I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I just want to thank you so much, because you have been part, and this is why I want to have you on, of my journey, health-wise and spiritually. And I definitely am going to make a trip down to LA, because I want you to check my hormones and I want you to see where I am hormonally, so I can match it to where I'm going spiritually right now, because I'm feeling very good, like you said, emotionally and spiritually. And sometimes the body takes a little time to catch up. And so I'd like to see where we're at with that. And I want to have you on from time to time and do some Instagram lives, because you're so knowledgeable, you're so wise, and you're aging so well.
I'm 71, but Dina,
Oh my gosh, that blows my mind.
age. It's a chronological age, so we are where we are chronologically, but we really can impact the emotional, the biological, the spiritual essence that we carry. And that's an important message, that we're not helpless in terms of our age. And we have the ability to live well into our hundreds and to avoid chronic diseases and to radiance.
I love it.
I want to say that if any of your people would like to download my book for free, you can go on thehallcenter.com, put in your name, and the book downloads. And also what downloads is it's for free, so it's not, but what downloads also is the hormone summit that I did several years ago, interviewing the top hormone specialist in the world, including Abraham Morgentaler, who's the father of testosterone therapy for men in Harvard, and Dale Bredesen, who's one of the founders of integrated brain health. Just great people. So it's all there for you in terms of more knowledge, and I would love you to have that.
Well, we appreciate that. We're going to put all the links below, so everyone's a click away from getting to know more about themselves through you and what you do. And we're so grateful for you and your gifts to humanity. And I really can't wait to have you on again and to see you in person. Thank you so much, Dr. Hall.
What joy. Thank you so much, Dina.